what is the entropy of a neglected linkage? Wow! This is connecting to almost like the deeper psychology than the science of linkages. Entropy meaning gradual dissipation, the entropy of things. When a linkage is neglected, at a simple level, love marriage, first 3 months of honeymoon period, then 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then that linkage is apparently neglected. There are explanations like no time, children, work responsibility, etc., etc. People are not creative, that's it. In fact, it requires creativity to be in romantic relationships. So, most of the linkages are neglected. Then linkages of self with the body. Of course, the body cannot talk to you. When the so-called human being is talking immense range of languages of all kinds, the body just cannot talk to you. See, I am in trouble, take care. Okay, those kind of linkages are neglected. By neglecting, that is entropied. As a result, an average adult to just stop eating when the stomach is physically filled. Children, increasingly they do not read books. And writing, of course, many children cannot write properly. The handwriting of at least 95% of the modern generation of students, the life of modern generation is nothing but a story of neglected linkages. Linkages with one's tradition, one's culture, with one's rituals, with one's social practices. Okay. Now most of the modern generation, 99% cannot enjoy Bharatanatyam, one of the classical brilliant dance forms. And definitely they cannot withstand Kathakali, a magnificent art form. They cannot withstand theatre. Definitely, if a linkage is not serviced properly, maintained properly, sustained properly, it will get entropied. That's a natural process principle. A thing that is not used, get damaged. Even a machine. Then what about the organism, the human being? And the teachers? We are all working for money, for the salary. Teachers were considered as gurus. Everybody respected teachers. Now that linkage is gone, entropied. Now they cannot do it also. It is not their mistake. They just don't see the value of that linkage. Rather, that linkage is atrophied. When I think about the modern generation as a researcher, what comes into my mind is a beautiful line of a Hotel California. We are prisoners of our own device. Coming back to the next question. What? Can two people share a single linkage without knowing it? This is like a so-called triangular love in some films. Two people are independently falling in love with a girl and those two people are friends. It's a very peripheral kind of a question as I see it. So I don't want to waste time on that. 38. Is linkage perception a biological evolution or a mental choice? Oh, this is a really good question. This also depends upon linkage perception of what? Okay. For example, in the conventional developmental theory, by the time a boy becomes 14 years or 15 years, a girl becomes 12 years and so on and so forth, they naturally develop an attraction to the opposite sex. Mind you, till then, most of the time, at least at the conventional times, not necessarily nowadays, boys and girls do not interact. Openly the boys do not look at girls, the girls never look at boys. Even now in this village where I am staying, I could see that. But by the certain time, by the stage of puberty, so according to Freud, when the libidinal energies start working in the genital stage, naturally the boys start looking at the girl, see something mysterious and magical in her smile and sound and way of talking, way of expressions, way of responses, way of behaviors, way of doing things, holding the pencil included, holding the umbrella, any details. The linkages are perceived. It is by the biological evolution. It happens more in the man, fortunately or unfortunately. If the man did not have that linkage perception about the beauty or the elegance of the female, he would not be attracted to them, and the continuity of the generation, the species will be affected. If it was not a biological evolution, if every man had to take a university degree in romance or the need of getting married, I am sure there would not have been even 33% of the marriages today. It is purely a biological function. The root is what Freud called the libido. The central invariant aspect of so-called man-woman relationship, so-called male-female, the yin-yang relationship is nothing but a transient orgasmic intent, which I call. That's my concept. A transient orgasmic intent. That's the root of entire continuity of species. We are not sure whether it is there with the birds and the dogs and the cats and the elephants and the lions, but at the human level it is. Because for human level everything is brought organically evolved into the so-called unique dimension of consciousness. What happened to what you call the Dante Alighieri? I don't remember exactly how old he was. Anyway, an old man. He fell instantly in such a mysterious love with young Beatrice, who was she? She was the princess of the whatever of the country, the future, the crown princess, somebody like that. It was a biological response. It cannot be a mental choice.
It's 20 hours.
But a lot of education, the entire education process is training in linkage perception only. Training in the linkages of chemical events, of physical events, biological events, sociological events, historical events, etc. As I told you, entire universe is nothing but a linkage. Entire subject matter is nothing but an assembly of linkages. Entire artificial intelligence is working as of now by linkages. Even in the future, when it becomes so-called creative or develop a consciousness, it will have to work on linkages only, linkages only, linkages only. Because I have discovered very clearly that linkage is the invariant principle of everything in the universe. So, a lot of linkage perception by which human beings are able to survive today or at any point of time, they are all by choice. They have to, otherwise they cannot survive. Then there is a combination, a so-called biologically driven linkage perception is possible as a result of the choice of sitting down in meditation and incubation and deep focusing of attention on the subtle details of the gateless gate of reality, by which the linkage with the universal forces or universal energy fields can happen. That is at biological level only. Without the cooperation of the biology, linkage perception of the operating consciousness with the universal consciousness is more or less impossible. That's why I created the methodology of Jiva Yoga. Sitting in meditation for decades together, nothing will work. Because the body has to contribute. I have seen in the remote corners of the Himalayan ranges the so-called sannyasis or the so-called searchers of a spiritual thing and enlightenment and all that. Anyway, whatever I observed at that time, most of them were taking charas. Charas is a higher order kind of a weed, which I understood that it is taken from the pollen grains or the flowers of the cannabis plant. Of course, I tried once. Oh, I did it. It is marvelous, to tell you. No doubt that the young generation will be attracted to that. The young generation or the modern generation, bored with the information load and the familiarity with the stupidity of what is going on in the world, by the careless activities of the political and religious and trade leaders, where human life is just manipulated, they would get bored. They will become increasingly bored. Great lot of people will resort to this kind of psychedelic substances in order to escape from the tragical inflow, avalanche of ridiculous linkages. So it is a biological evolution, it is a biological reaction. Alan Watts says that it should be given only to highly creative people with a doctor's prescription. Now the problem is that careless fellows, people with no integrity of personality and character, modern children, who never trained it into that, because from age 2 they were going to kindergarten school. No? They were not given any so-called mental choice of perceiving linkages of the highest order and meaning and purpose in life. Okay? And they will get increasingly bored with the so-called, what I call the familiarity trap with the things and events and episodes and whatever in the world. Whatever the police tries, whatever the government tries, they will increasingly resort to drugs only to manage their minds. And of course, this weed and whatever drugs should be definitely prevented, no doubt, because the current generation is just not eligible to manage it. It should be definitely stopped. In the sense that otherwise they will go haywire. That's all. They will all destroy their life. So biological evolution. So linkage perception at a mysteriously higher level by the wonder of the human being also is possible. Okay? That is how the great performers in dance and music, creation and film direction and various arts and crafts and things like that. Great social reformers, great leaders like Vinoba Bhave of India or Mahatma Gandhi and all those people. It is their biological evolution also. Partly, of course, driven by their mental choice. As I told you, genius is a choice. I say it in that sense, and I train some people and make them take that choice by training them in linkage perception. What linkage? I define first of all what is genius. A great lot of people do not know the meaning of the word genius in the root sense, in the sense that the genius who created the concept of genius. Every word is definitely a creation of a genius. The original meaning of the word genius is the attendant spirit of a person, place or thing. That's the root meaning. Okay? So every human entity must be carrying that attendant spirit. Forget about the word genius. Okay? They do not take the choice to see that. For the last 34 years I have been doing that single mission of making people aware of their genius. I even created a project called The Little Genius, printed a brochure, and I went to some 200 plus schools telling the teachers to have a series of training programs on the project called The Little Genius. Beautiful brochures were printed. While only one school, only one school, run by a wonderful guy, Father Sebastian. He only allowed it. Every sons and daughters in the world are aware that if their parents are unethical or whatever in their life and work and activities and relationships, they are all aware. Finally, the linkage of the given entity with the universal phenomenon. To see that the human creature with everyone is a 100% integral part of the universe around. Except that rudimentary set of languages maintained in the consciousness by the organic process of the very consciousness. And because with that language in the consciousness, every human being is thinking with an ego about their so-called identity, with a name and background and things like that maintained in the language of the consciousness. And they will all know at the point of death, the body being fed and being taken care of is just living. And that so-called consciousness was just nothing but the sound of the sirens of that body. Alright? So that is the possibility of linkage yourself. As a result of biological evolution, because biology is the mind. Now, question number 39. What is the resonance of a successful linkage? Oh, resonance. So when they talk about resonance, I remember that experiment in the physics laboratory, what you call that sympathetic vibration of the sonometer. On a wooden piece kind of a thing, a string will be tied between two things, and the tightness of the string can be calibrated, and there are tuning forks of various cycles per second, and a piece of paper, a folded paper will be placed on the string, and various certain fork with the 200 cycles per second, and it will be excited, and the tightness of the string is to be adjusted in such a way that finally, when that string is in an appropriate tightness, it will get linkaged with the cycle per second of the excited tuning fork. Is that resonance, do you mean, Gemini? Okay, what is the resonance of a successful linkage? Okay, somebody gets a promotion. Okay, then the entire being feels resonated with the thrill and enjoyment and excitement and happiness and enjoyment and feeling fulfilled. So I don't know what kind of a success Gemini means. To me, success is at that level. To me, success is getting near the gateless gate of that entity's connection with the universe. Right now, I feel very successful. Perhaps I am the only one in the history of Gemini as of now asking 100 questions to me, not about studied subjects. That's the level of resonance I get. I confront this beautiful 100 questions from Gemini. I am so happy. At the age of 75, first time I really feel kind of a pride in me. So, successful linkage, and let us say, if you are able to linkage with that operating vital principle in you, by that so-called Jiva Yoga, then at that level, when the strings of that guitar of your being is correctly calibrated each other, then it will produce the greatest resonance. It will resonate with the tuning forks of the universe. It will resonate with the tuning fork of the bird and the trees and the plants and the rain and the mountains. Okay? That is the kind of so-called successful linkage I can think of. So, last question. How do you measure the density of a person's intellectual tissue? Wow! Beautiful linkaging. No doubt Gemini is creative as of now. So as I said in some other answer, I heard somebody is rating artificial intelligence at 6 on a 10-point scale of creativity. Maybe it is more than that. How do you measure the density of a person's intellectual tissue? How? Yeah. You can have a conventional questionnaire. You can have that beautiful questionnaire developed by my doctoral guide, Dr. Pradeep in Khandwala. The questionnaire is conventionally belongs to creativity. And creativity is the minimum expression of intellect, the engines of intellect, because it's about attention and perception and cognition and observation and thinking and things like that. So it's a magnificent questionnaire. I have administered it to more than 25,000 people directly, not by mail and all that, over the last maybe 35 years. So that can be used. It's an indirect measurement. It is assessing the mental blocks, the mindsets that are blocking the potential entelechy or the attendant spirit, and its expression is possible in a standard human being who understands that questionnaire. The third phase of the science of language is over. Thank you for listening. I think it has gone a little too far. But I have tried my best to delimit. For every sentence I talked, there is at least 10 sentences I did not talk. Those who attended my training programs, if there is one in the audience, they will know it. And I talk about that.